Wow. And is wired. And is wired. I think my husband was talking to his mother for Mother's Day today, and he had said, "No, Janet's not feeling well. I wasn't feeling well earlier today." But he comes downstairs and he sees that I'm working on video editing. I'm like, I can't just lay here. I have to be doing something. And John explains to his mother, "Yes, Janet is a human doing, not a human being. She can't just sit around. She's got to do something all the time." So. Well, thank you. If I was gonna say, I was going to explain to you, if you were interested in submitting writing to either one of the magazines, that's totally wonderful. I know everybody loves the name Down in the Dirt. But I will tell you that Down in the Dirt is only accepting flash fiction. It won't accept longer stories. So if you had longer prose, then you want to send that to cc&d. And I'm the same person. I'm editing them both. They're just differently, the poetry's in the front of cc&d, and we just put everything in the order it comes and Down in the Dirt. But it's otherwise just me that you're talking to in two different magazines, and they're both released online as well as in Amazon Books for ISBN Books. And you can see the guidelines for both of them through scars.tv, the guidelines for both magazines. Find out anything you want to know, and feel free. Always submit to me. I can tell you that one up with that. Thank you. The difference? Oh yeah, the difference. When I even go to open mics, if I am going to say a poem, they will see the amount of emotion and inflection, or how much I will make a point to make eye contact somehow with an audience. I learned this at an earlier age because I didn't want to have to deal with things. I would put writing like a 24 point on paper so that I could keep it far away from my head, so I don't have to stare with a paper in front of my head reading things to people like I'm supposed to be at a lectern just staring at a book and reading to people. So I try to be able to do something so you feel like you're actually there and a part of things more. I do anything I can to get emotion out while I'm doing it. And even when it comes to, oh, hey, would you like to do, if it's a reading at a bookstore, I'm just going to be standing there reading things from books. That's one thing. But if somebody asks me, hey, we're at the Baha'i Faith Center, we'd like you to send poems based on this. Or I'm going back to Chicago and I'm going to have a feature at In One Ear or at Gallery Cabaret, I will come up with a set show that goes thematically in order. If I can, which I won't be able to do when I go back to visit Chicago, but I'll do it when I'm local, I might set up video cameras that have things going on at the same time, or I might have a PowerPoint display showing images going on at the same time. Or I would, because I get proof copies of books, I would get long sheets of brown paper, so I would write things on them and use them as some sort of display to do something that's related to my poetry. So it's not just me sitting there reading things. So I try to do something just to make it, anything to make it more, more as a whole package. I even recently, we made a point to go out because we're in Austin, you go out of the way, and we recorded a train just rolling in the middle of nowhere. Or it was the right time of year, I've got recordings of crickets. And birds, because the birds are all around my house. There's a bamboo forest next to my house. It's not on my property, but it's great. And these birds come around, and so I recorded birds making noises. And if I've got anything that relates to birds, I could just have from my smartphone some bird noises, or if I, for effect for something, I'll have a train going by, or just do any sort of sound effects or music from other people or whatever. So anything I can to make it as much as an all-inclusive thing as I possibly can. Because I know the words are cool. No problem. Yeah, the words of poems are good, yes, but sometimes not every single poem and every single word you write is perfect. So giving something a little bit more will help make it a bigger thing that people remember more. So I do way too much for poetry readings, in other words. But then again, I'm a human doing, not a human being, I guess, as we had said earlier. Mm-hmm. Washington State, yep. Are you going closer to the ocean, or are you going to be closer? No, you're going to be in. When I went to visit in Seattle, I made a trip up so we could go to the temperate rainforest that is a few hours drive from there, which was really cool to be able to see, but that was toward the ocean, so I can't tell you that much about the state otherwise, other than driving through to visit. Yeah, it is beautiful. And they were said to me for Seattle, it doesn't rain as much as everybody says it does. So we were. Yep, it's actually not as bad. I mean, everybody has that assumption about what the weather will be like, but no matter. It's a nice place. Okay. Okay. Good that you got that taken care of. Well, thank you. I was just thanking him for calling. That is all. It was very nice to hear. Well, that was something that somebody asked me, because I did have access to a monthly show at the Baha'i Faith Center through the end of 2017, but it was through a group called Expressions, and the Baha'i Center, I believe, is now needing to charge for renting of their space, and so we couldn't use their space in 2018. And it says, well, this monthly thing is going to end. And a woman afterward asked me, well, what are you going to do now that you don't have this monthly space? And it was a poor, sweet old lady, and I just said, I'm just going to sit in my home and cry to myself all the time. I don't know. I'll come up with something. I mean, I might not be able to read here, but there will be chances for me to read, and I'll do whatever I can. It's fascinating, because I was used to running an open mic in Chicago, and by doing that, and also doing the video recording for it, which became the podcast and the YouTube videos, that took a chunk out of my time that I didn't go to other places for open mics as much. And now that I've moved here, I haven't tried to, I thought about it for a bit, but I haven't really tried to host a regular open mic here. I would fill in, and it's National Poetry Month last month. I took over the Poetry Aloud Georgetown open mic for people because they couldn't make it, or there was a reading at Half Price Books for National Poetry Month. Tom couldn't make it, so I'll be the host for that, and I'm happy and pleased and fine with doing that. There are also little things like something that was started in Chicago called the Poetry Bomb. And what that meant is on the last Saturday or Sunday in April, which was the 29th this month, you go out in the middle of a place that normally doesn't have poetry readings, and you bomb the place with poetry. You just go do poetry readings somewhere different. So we went to the Graffiti Wall, which is an iconic place here in Austin where people are welcome in a certain space to be able to spray paint stuff. And there's lots of art, and it gets covered up and changed every day or two. But I decided, I was like, I'm going to have to go here to read because I just heard of this iconic location. Some property owner just bought the land for it, and they're planning on getting rid of Graffiti Park, which in Austin is a real iconic thing. And I think they're talking about moving it to somewhere else by the airport, but that's not the same thing as going toward downtown, right at 11th Street to go see some graffiti art somewhere because they've got a space for it instead of hoping people that won't graffiti up things downtown. So I was like, we'll have to do that. So I'll do things like that, but I don't have my own open mic anymore, so I get a chance to... If I'm going to go to a place, I will take the time and I will have video of me. I still have so many videos to post up from recent readings from National Poetry Month, but there's a lot of stuff that I do for that takes up a lot of time. And I have monthly book readings on the first Wednesday of every month at Half Price Books at 5555 North Lamar. Which is a Wednesday from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. And because I release books pretty much every month, I'm reading from new books every month whenever it comes out, and a couple of rounds of multiple 10-minute feature readings. So there's a lot of stuff for me to still be doing, and I think to coincide with my returning to Chicago, I'm going to make sure that I've got a couple more books for releasing, those poetry performance art books with the Chicago skyline covers on them, and as well as my Antarctica book and the short thing with collections of stuff about interviews and select poems. So if you can come up with some bold question for me, I might have highlights from this that might appear in a page or two at the end of this book in depth, because it was highlights of things from interviews as well as journals and such. So just to be able to put highlights of what were the big things in my life in a tiny little book to be able to share. So always looking for different corners, for avenues for trying new things, but circumstances change. So, that by virtue of, you've got a space for features. Well, you don't anymore, but you've got this. Or, hey, here's this book idea. Why don't you have a poem that relates to every holiday of the year and have that as a book? Well, maybe I'll work on that in the future. We'll see. But there's always something that's coming up. So they come in waves, and I try to roll with the tides and come in stronger every time. I was asked, what would you want to tell people on the radio earlier today? And what I said is, you might, if you look at things that I've written or videos that I've posted on YouTube or things that I've published, you might look at me and think that I'm pretty much an open book because I let a lot out when I do. But you probably don't know me that well because we all have ways to be able to hide what is truest to ourselves, and there are still things that we are too afraid to share with the rest of the world, that even though I might seem like an open book, there's still a lot about me that you don't know, and maybe you'll just have to come bother me more to find out more about the real me. Right. I think years ago, I may have been in college, maybe, my brother, may he rest in peace, looked at my stuff and he's like, so are all these things true? And I said, well, here, let me look at a poem that said, I knew I had to kill them. I walked in and I killed my mother first and then my stepfather. This is all made up. This is not, my parents are happily married. I'm not lighting black candles and thinking of killing anybody. You don't have to assume that everything I've written is entirely only about me, because it's not the case. Because if you can write novels and things, there are a lot of things that you can delve into from learning from other people. I would write things about a battered woman, and it's something that was from a news story that you would hear about these things in Nashville, and I would write a few pieces about that. It had nothing to do with me. I didn't know the woman, nothing. You know, some of these things are just things that you find fascinating and want to share. That doesn't mean that everything that you read from me is actually only about me. There's a lot about me that, oddly enough, people don't know, right? That's very true, because the things that I choose to share, whether or not they're directly about me, would probably actually do tell you things about me. Wow, what a mysterious weave that I'm doing. People have got to figure me out. Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you very much for this opportunity. And thank you to everybody out there on the radio, because I'm not able to call you guys, but thank you all for being a part of this, and thank you, John, so very much. I'm honored, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much.